Gardening Australia on a Friday night. It must be a special occasion. So don't go anywhere, because for the next hour, we're going to be celebrating Easter. There'll be some new stories and a sprinkling of some old ones. But for now, get comfortable, and here's a look at what's coming up.
These little creatures definitely say Easter. Chicks are so cute. And I'm going to show you how grown-up chooks, ducks and geese can be great helpers in the garden.
Well, getting ready for a few days away. I've got my rods, I've got my swag, and I've got my holiday herb basket. And I'm going to show you how to make one a little bit later on.
What do native animals like to eat? Well, I'm at a wildlife sanctuary to figure that out, where they care for cute, furry and feathered creatures, so they don't go the way of this one.
Easter means different things for different people. It's an important religious celebration for cultures all around the world, a time to gather with family and friends. I remember as a kid, our Greek community used to have massive Easter celebrations right here in Neilson Park. The canopy of these weeping pigs was filled with smoke that was coming from row after row of barbecues, manned by the papus, the grandpas, who were turning spits and twisting souvlaki. On the other hand, the yayas, the grandmas, they were tossing salads and laying out platter after platter of scrumptious Greek sweets. As kids, this is what I remember of Easter. But the best part was eating and then heading off to our total freedom by the water, exploring the caves and climbing the rocks.
Get the rock, I'll get your ball.
Okay. Hello, guys. Chicks are a symbol of Easter, but usually when they're a bit cuter and fluffier than this. The kids and I collect the eggs daily. However, usually a clever mummy chook hides a stash of eggs and hatches a new clutch of chicks every year. But that's okay, because it renews our flock. When I started my flock, I chose light Sussex, Australorps and Araucanas because I love their blue or green eggs. But then I was given 5 other breeds, and now we've got lots of crossbreeds because we don't keep the roosters separate from the hens. Who cares? The eggs still taste great. Thanks, babe. We also get eggs from our ducks. These are fantastic for making cakes, especially sponges. And this is a goose egg, which I emptied from last spring. That's the only time they lay. They make the most divine custard and baked desserts. But these fowls aren't just here to be productive. They're also a great help in the orchard. The chooks are for insect patrol, and they manage things like codlin moth larvae, which would otherwise cause a problem for my apples and pears. The ducks are also great at eating insects, and they love snails. And the geese, well, they're weed and feed. They're fantastic at mowing the grass in the orchard so we don't have to slash or whippersnip. And they also eat fallen fruit. The birds love getting a daily feed of our kitchen scraps. They go mad for it. Reject material from the veggie patch, and they turn it all into wonderful fertiliser. The straw from the coop floors is full of droppings and makes an excellent addition to the compost. Or you can condition soil with it by covering a bed and leaving it fallow for 6 months before putting in a crop. Not everything's gone right with my flock. This is my organic veggie garden. And when I first got ducklings, someone told me that I could run them in here and they would control the snails and insect pests. Seemed like a great idea. And they started by eating harlequin bugs, which was great, until they discovered that lettuce tasted better. And since then, they've been confined to the orchard. Someone then told me I could get guinea fowl, and they could free range around a garden and a veggie patch without scratching it up. So I got some eggs and I put them under a broody chook. Now, unfortunately, only one hatched, and because of that, it's very attached to its surrogate chook mother, and I can't separate them yet. I'm happy for them to free range around the garden, but I'm not going to put them in the veggie patch, or the mummy chook will simply scratch it up. So it's an experiment I'm going to persist with, and I'll get more guinea fowl eggs this spring. Take a look at this. Foxes can be a problem in the city and in the country. So when we built this compound, we used chain mesh, which is very strong and the foxes can't chew through. And we also buried it into the ground. It goes down about 30 centimetres and then out to 1 metre, which means that a fox can't dig its way in. Also, on top of the walls, we've put this floppy mesh facing out, so the fox can't climb in either. At my place, I also have the extra security of Sherlock, my Maremma dog. He's bred to be a guardian and does a great job of keeping predators away. And one last thing about our feathered friends. If you get them when they're young and have lots of contact with them, as we did, they make great pets. The chooks and ducks don't mind being handled and they've sort of got individual personalities. And the geese, as a gaggle, have got a collective personality. And so, after nearly 6 years, I can't imagine life without my flock. Can you, Violet?
I want to keep them forever. That's good. Go. Shoo, shoo. Whoa, whoa, whoa. No flying.
Fashions come and go, and I'm very lucky to have survived the fashion of big hair, big shoulder pads and vast flares. How ghastly indeed. But fashions also happen in gardens and in plants. Some plants make a comeback. This plant, for instance, is an aster, or the Easter daisy, and most popular since my grandma's time. But it's back in fashion now because it's really a hardy plant. Asters, well, they bring the bees to your garden. They love the sun or part shade. And if you give them a bit of moisture over summer, they really bounce along. They will flower for 3 or 4 months. And as their common name suggests, Easter's the time that they really come into their own. Once they finish flowering, being a perennial plant, you cut them right back down to the ground, right down at their socks down there, and just that whole area can be cut back, and then they'll come up again in spring. They're a marvellous plant as a cut flower in a vase. Have a look out for them.
When I was a boy at home, we used to celebrate Easter with 1 egg and 1 book. When I was really young, I got some Roald Dahl. And when I got through my teens, a bit of J.R. Tolkien. When I got a bit older, I got the complete works of D.H. Lawrence. I don't know, must have been going through a literary stage. But we're keeping that tradition going with our own daughters. Eden, for her first Easter, got The House in the Night. And Bonnie, bit of Dr. Seuss. I think it's a great Carnivale tradition, and I hope it goes on forever.
So Easter when I was a kid was probably a trip camping, maybe a fishing trip with my dad. So this weekend, no doubt I'll spend a lot of time in my new garden and maybe I'll take squid fishing.
With my young family, it's already become an Easter tradition to have the great egg hunt at our place. So my young kids and all their little cousins just go for it. And because there's so many nooks and crannies in this garden, it can take them ages to find them all. And even better still, the ones they miss, I stumble across up to days afterwards as I'm foraging around in the garden. Beautiful little chocolate smackerels.
An important part of our Greek Easter celebration revolved around eggs. And last year, I caught up with some family friends to relive some of these childhood traditions. Every year, as far back as I can remember, my family and friends have got together to create colourful dyed Greek Easter eggs. Well, I've got some eggs from my chickens at home and I'm ready to get creative with this year's batch. Hey, Maria! How are you? Hi, girls. How you going? You good? Oh, look who's in charge up the back here, Ange. Mwah. How are you? You know, the world is in order if Ange is giving me stick about the beard. Everything is fine in the world. I've known Maria and her mum, Angela, for most of my life. And today, Maria's invited her two nieces, Pamela and Zoe, along to help us create what I think will be some pretty amazing Easter eggs. So look at these eggs, girls. I remember when I was your age, and I used to do egg dyeing with my iya and my mum. It was lots of fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah. Yeah, we dye red eggs for Easter, and they symbolise that Christ has risen. And on Saturday night, we crack them, and whoever egg is not broken is the winner and has good luck for the year.
Yeah, the champion for the year.
Champion, and you keep that egg.
Now, there's my eggs, Maria. I've selected all of my white ones.
White are the best because they show up the colour. And they haven't been in the fridge, have they?
No.
No, because room temperature is the best because that way when we boil them, they don't break.
OK, now, Zoe, what have we got here?
Beetroot.
What colour do you think we're going to get out of the beetroot?
Purple, red.
Purpley red? Yeah, I think you're right. And what about over here, Pamela? What do we got?
Onion.
What colour will come out of the onions, do you think?
Brown.
Do you think they'll make you cry as well?
Maybe.
And what else have we got here, Maria?
We've got some stockings and some ties and some little stickers. We can also get the girls to pick some leaves from the garden and we put them on and we dye them, tie them with the stocking, and when we take it off, it leaves the imprint of the leaf.
Oh, wow.
So they make really pretty eggs.
What do you think? Do you girls want to come up and we'll pick some flowers and some leaves?
Yes.
That sounds like fun to me. OK, let's have a look in the garden. Now, do either of you know what plant this is?
Rosemary.
Now, if we cut off about that much, that's the pattern that we'll get on the egg, OK? There's lots of different plant leaves and flowers you can use, but it's best to stick to edible plants and the ones that you know. For a list of the obvious ones to avoid, check out the fact sheet on our website. This is a chicory flower, and I think that pattern will come up beautifully on our eggs. And then look what we've got here, some beautiful basil. So let's cut some of these off. Cut that one off. And the last one over there is the oregano. Let's get a little bit of that. Take it off right at the bottom there. What have you been up to, Maria?
Well, I've cut up some stockings ready for the eggs. We've got some onion leaves and some stickers, so we can get working.
All right, we'll grab an egg, girls. Tightly press the leaves and flowers against the eggs with pieces of stocking. This will hold everything together, but it'll also let the dye through to colour the eggs. Look at that one. See the purple flower?
Yeah.
See, I'll put it face down, so we should get the pattern of the flower.
We put some rosemary with the stickers, yeah?
Look at that, Maria.
It's like a spider.
Yeah, it does look like a spider, doesn't it? Okay, tie that off, Zoe. Oops. Well, I think we've done incredibly well. We're up to about 15 eggs and we've had our first casualty. The stocking hasn't quite caught her artwork, but she's ahead of her time. I love your work. Well done, Zoe. Okay, Maria, here's some more cut veggies.
Okay.
I've got some onions there.
All right, here they go.
I've got a little bit of beetroot here and some more cabbage. Now, tell me, what's the boiling technique?
I don't know. Really, it's experimental. So we'll see how we go. But I think about an hour to get a colour. We're already getting a bit of colour.
Yep. And what's the purpose of the vinegar?
The vinegar will make the eggs hold the colour more.
Okay.
So I think we'll splash some in now.
What quantity?
Just like half a cup, I would say. Yeah, good.
A splash.
Splash.
You know that measurement. It's written on the side of all good
Greeks don't
kitchenware.
measure.
Just a splash, a Greek splash. Now the dye colour is strong enough, we'll add the eggs and simmer slowly for about an hour. I'm really excited to see how they've turned out. Let's start unwrapping, eh?
Oh, that's so pretty.
Look at the pattern here.
It's like a dragonfly.
Take off the stocking and all the bits of plant material and stickers to reveal the beautiful finished Easter eggs. And that's where you put the chicory flower. Let's try that one.
Look how white the egg is underneath where we took the sticker
Yeah,
off.
and the love heart.
This looks like the one we covered in onion leaves.
Yeah.
Turned out really well.
Finish off by rubbing a bit of oil on the eggs to make them look even better. Look at the result. And the best thing is, it's all come from the garden.
This weekend, I'm going to be planting some sweet pea seeds. Easy to do, and you think about it, it's a lovely time because the soil is still warm. First of all, get a cup, put your sweet pea seeds into the cup and pour some tepid water over them. Leave them overnight and the seed coats actually soften. Then you can sow them and you'll find they'll grow very quickly so that in late spring and summer you get these magnificent sweet pea and their fragrance. It's gorgeous. Enjoy them.
This weekend, I'll be planting tomatoes. I live in the subtropics, and the tomato loves 23 degrees as a maximum temperature and 70% humidity, which is something that we get with ease during our cool seasons. Now, the best tomato to plant is green zebra. It's a small cherry tomato, has a wonderful flavour, and being a cherry, it means that it gets less pest problems than most other tomatoes.
"400 metres from the station and just 5 kilometres from the Perth CBD. After a long search, a bunch of like-minded souls found their perfect block of land in the trackside suburb of Lathley. That was 2010. By 2012, the 840 square metre site had been transformed. The trains are still here, of course, but there's also 2 townhouses and 2 apartments, home to 6 adults and 3 kids. This is their story. Helmut and wife Ogeny live in one of the townhouses. Alana lives in the other. Linda and Bradley each occupy a single unit. And Mark, husband of Alana, is also in the townhouse, along with their 3 kids. Now, this is a project close to my heart because I was involved in the early planning. Squeezing 4 dwellings with good solar access, plus room for gardening on a suburban block is no mean feat.
So the buildings are all designed with very high energy ratings. They're a passive solar design. They have double glazing, very high insulation values for the outer walls, and then good thermal mass inside.
So how did you all come together to do this as a team?
Well, we heard that Helmut and Ogeny wanted to live in a more sustainable place, and I think the disadvantage they had was not having anyone to do it with. So we decided that we'd like to do it, and it was a project that the more people involved, the more you could make a community at the same time as making your own home more sustainable.
The outdoor area has been designed to create both private and shared spaces. What a lovely spot you've got here.
Thanks very much, Josh.
Getting the northern sun.
Yeah, it's fantastic in winter. Nice warm spot to sit on a cool day.
And how have you sort of found this kind of close proximity living?
Yeah, look, it took me a bit of getting used to be honest with you, because it's not what I'm used to. But yeah, it's fantastic. And, you know, we've all got our own little private spaces, as well as, you know, the shared spaces, which is great.
And having the green space next door gives you a sense of space?
Absolutely. I mean, I can sit in my lounge room and all I can see is green, which is perfect. Yep.
If I look back, the vision was just so clear on what we wanted to achieve. Sustainability, the community feel, we had creativity in there. We wanted a place that would inspire other people to, you know, potentially do something like this, and I think we ticked a lot of those boxes.
I think the thing that made me want to come here was the environmental credentials of the building and also the location. So for me, I can walk to work, catch the train to pretty much anywhere, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, you've got your privacy, but, you know, quite often we're all out in the garden and we'll just have somebody just pops the kettle on and we'll just have an impromptu afternoon tea or something, and, yeah, the kids get out there and do stuff.
Linda was wanting to downsize, so an apartment by the train station was ideal. And do you find there's enough green space on this block for this kind of density?
Yeah, definitely. You know, you've got the front garden as well, and you've got the sump and just the general area at the back there with the vegetables. Yeah, there's plenty of green space.
And how about the trains? How's the noise for you?
Just so next to it. Yeah, actually, when you're inside, you've got the double glazing, so you don't even notice it anymore. Yeah,
so it's soundproofed inside?
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, and I actually use the trains every day of the week, so Yeah, used to them now.
So it's a bonus, really?
It's a bonus for me, yeah, yeah.
The site is located next to a stormwater drainage sump, a common feature in Perth's suburban landscape. It's owned by the local council, but with permission, the group have converted the previous barren area into a community garden. And Helmut has been a leading hand. So you're finding this is really working well?
It works really well. It's a really nice place to work together with the people that live around here. So there's a lot of hard labour has gone into this, but as you can see, it's established really well. A lot of plants have grown. They're struggling on this side, but overall it looks fantastic, I think, and so much greener than it was like 4 years ago.
And the council have been supportive with the beekeeping and the chooks?
Yes, the council have been fantastic. They've been very supportive from the beginning. So we've got a nice framework in place so it can be repeated throughout Vic Park. And so we're really happy with their support. Every 6 months we get a check-up with them. So we go through and, if there's anything that they don't like, we'll fix it. But they've been very supportive.
And are you hoping this becomes a bit of a model for
Definitely.
Other sumps
Yes.
in the area?
There's so many of these sumps around in Vic Park, and it would be great to just have a bit more greenery in the suburbs. That's really what it's about.
And how much does this space add to the livability of your overall housing development?
Oh, it feels, we're in the middle of the city, and it doesn't feel that way. It feels like you're out, and that's what makes this place really, really nice to work in. So it's never going to be totally perfect, but it's just a place where we come together and work. That's the nice thing.
Suburban infill and loss of green space are common issues around the country. This project shows clever ways to address them, with good design, sustainable building, and creative use of underutilised space. The result is a lovely place to live, with plenty of room for gardening, and it's fun.
So we just meet up.
You may remember last year, I visited the Botanic Gardens chocolate exhibition, and while I grappled with my decision, dark chocolate or milk chocolate, Bilby, what better time to remind ourselves of where chocolate comes from? For more than a century, Australians have had a love affair with chocolate. On average, we each eat 6 kilos of the stuff every year, putting us in the top 10 chocolate-eating nations. And our appetite for the sweet treat is growing every year. I'm here in the Royal Botanic Gardens in Sydney to meet the Director of Horticulture in a new exhibition space open to the public. And the first exhibition is all about chocolate. Why did you choose chocolate?
Well, I was trying to come up with an idea for what do I do to talk about science and conservation in a conservatory in a greenhouse. My usual creative process is go home, turn on some music, pop up on the couch, eat something, and that day it was chocolate, which is most days. And I'm eating away and looking at my fingers and thinking, what do I talk about? What do I talk about? Do we talk about orchids? Do we talk about flowers? Do we chocolate? Chocolate is the story. Chocolate's 5,000 years of history. It's the rainforest wrapped up in a chocolate bar.
Where does chocolate grow?
Grows only within 10 degrees north or south of the equator. So the equator is the belt around the middle of the globe. So only just that small tip. So only a few countries that actually touch around that area. Australia is one of them. We can grow chocolate in the northern Queensland area. So we don't think about it, but that area is also, chocolate was the perfect story, but it's all the things that add to it. Is the rainforest is also the home of vanilla and spices and Brazil nuts and cashews and nutmeg. 80% of our food crops originated in the rainforest. So that's an amazing story. 2/3 of the world's plant life lives in the rainforest.
2/3?
2/3. 1/3 of our biodiversity of animals live in the rainforest. So you just think about that little bitty belt around the middle. It's kind of like your pants belt. The belt falls off, it all falls off. So that belt is the most probably biodiverse region. It's the cradle of life. It's probably one of the most important areas of our whole planet.
Can you tell me a little bit more about this amazing plant?
Well, chocolate is a really cool plant. First of all, the name, Theobroma cacao. Theobroma is Latin for food of the gods.
Yeah, theo, that's a Greek word.
God, theology. This is a food that people worship even to today. But an amazing thing to me is these little tiny flowers that actually bloom on the trunk of the tree. And it's pollinated by little midges and ants and aphids and thrips, and then produces this giant fruit. There's multiple cultivars and varieties actually found across the world, depending on where you're at. And this one's actually Carrillo. Differences are in the flavor and the size of the fruit and the color, no different than picking a different variety of apple.
So what farming methods have you replicated here?
Well, instead of the typical historical, more common method of growing chocolate in rows and actually in a very cleared plantation, we've gone back to what is actually becoming the new way of growing chocolate. It's actually growing under the canopy of rainforest trees in conjunction with other food crops. So think banana trees, vanilla vines growing, coconut palms, which we have here. But most importantly, the soil is happier, which means the little midge that lives in the soil most of the year and then actually flies up here and pollinates that little tiny flower. You get more midges. You get more midges, you get more chocolate, you get more chocolate, you get more money, and you don't have to cut as much rainforest down. Rainforests across the whole globe are actually under threat. Right now, they estimate about 80,000 hectares per day are lost. That's up about 60 hectares per minute. My hope with the exhibit is, by the time you get through with it, you might have learned a little bit about the rainforest, a little bit about chocolate, a little bit about what we do as a science organization. But most importantly, the next time you go to the grocery store and reach up and buy a bar of chocolate, you might turn around to the back and look at it and go, yeah, this one actually helps the planet just a little bit. Maybe I'll pay an extra 50 cents for it. So make a little bit of a difference.
A few years ago, I was planning a camping trip with a mate, and I realised we'd need some fresh herbs to cook on the campfire. I thought about passing through the towns and picking them up as we went through, but $5 for a sprig of parsley? Not on my watch. So instead, I planted the holiday herb basket. All you need is a basket. So this one cost me about $5, I think, from the op shop. Nice and sturdy, enough soil depth to maintain quite a few plants, but not so big that I can't lift it. I've lined it with a little bit of off-cut of pond liner and then put a couple of drainage slits so the moisture can actually get out of the bottom. Your sort of traditional idea would be that you should match always your Mediterranean herbs or your Asian herbs. I push my luck with everything, and I'm going to pack everything I can into this basket because I want lots of flavours. I'm going away, I want a little bit of everything. So with my summer basket, I've got basils, oregano, thyme, all of those summer flavours. But coming into the cooler months, there's a few other flavours to choose from, plenty still. Of course, rosemary, and as well as being a beautiful flavour to use in just about all cooking, it goes a really long way. It'll flower in the winter months as well. I'm going to plant some sorrel, and it's actually a really, really good plant for the cold. You only need a few leaves, really, really zingy, sort of lemony flavour. Great with fish, great with all sorts of dishes. Of course, parsley, I can't live without it. I put it on everything, so flat leaf parsley is just so easy to grow and perfect for this sort of project. And I'm also going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to put a bit of celery in. I don't necessarily use celery like big fleshy stems. I like it just as a little bit of a flavouring in lots and lots of things. Edible flowers, there's actually plenty of them. And coming into winter, beautiful little Johnny Jump Up viola, a little bit of cheer, really nice if you want to give this away as a prezi. And autumn is the best time of the year to sow coriander. Cooler weather, warm soil, and I'll always do that from seed, so I'm going to pack a bit of that in as well. Because I'm planting so many different plants in here, I want a really good quality potting mix with heaps of nutrients. So to a premium mix, I've added a little bit of organic fertiliser and some worm castings. So first up, I'll do the rosemary, because it's sort of the most substantial plant that's going to be in the basket. A little bit of the roots are looking pretty good. Nice amount of space. This variety should spill a little bit as well as grow upright. Next, I reckon the red sorrel. Oh, look at that. That's going to go bonkers. And a little bit of French sorrel. Again, some of these varieties are actually better in a pot because they can be pretty vigorous in the garden. and a bit of parsley. So the nice thing about my very first holiday herb basket was, you know, it was great. We got to have herbs with every meal and, you know, it was lovely, fresh food. But the other nice thing was that people would spot it on the back of the ute and have a little chat to us about the garden. It's not the normal thing to see someone's little garden on the back of their truck. Anyway, we were in one little town and these ladies spotted it on the back of the ute and were so excited and told us all about their garden and then disappeared round the back to go and pick us some produce. So that night we had fresh herbs and fresh zucchini from their garden. It was pretty lovely. It's good to be a little bit careful when you're moving any member of the carrot family. So parsley, celery, any of those guys, they don't really like root disturbance, so try and be a bit cautious. Now this just needs watering in, and don't be afraid to give them a liquid feed. It'll really push the growth along. In a couple of weeks, you'll be ready to hit the road. And until then, have a great weekend.
With a tribe of kids, one of the highlights of Easter for us is always the Easter egg hunt on Sunday morning. It's amazing where Easter Bunny leaves eggs. We've found them in the container of chook grain, in the hay shed, and even by Luscious's nose. So we have lots of fun running around the patch with baskets in hand looking for chocolate.
When you mention Easter, it brings back childhood memories of when I was in a church choir in London, in Forest Hill. And I used to get 2 and 6 every week from my father for pocket money. But if I sang on Good Friday, I'd get 5 bob. On Sunday, I get 7 shillings. So it was a really worthwhile thing. I was a very happy little treble.
It's camping time to me. Ever since we were kids, the family would bundle themselves into the car and we'd go off to the Grampians or the Blue Mountains and we'd camp. Nothing flash, it was just really rough and ready. We had a tarpaulin and the dog would come and we'd all sleep under the tarpaulin. It was a great way to get really into the Australian bush. And I still love doing that. Easter is a great time to go bushwalking. I love it going down to the coastline. It's when the Banksia integrifolias, the coastal Banksias, are in flower, and it's a great time to be out and about in the Australian bush.
This is Mariah. Her and her mother came off second best to a car. Her mother passed on, but Mariah survived. She's been rehabilitated and she's due for release in about 6 months' time. Mariah and all the other native animals here at the Wildlife Sanctuary have very similar stories to tell. Greg Irons is the director of Bongarong Wildlife Sanctuary, about 30 kilometres north of Hobart.
We're a sanctuary for injured and orphan wildlife, so we run the main rescue service in Tasmania that rescues around about sort of 6,000 to 7,000 animals every year, so it keeps us very busy. Obviously some can't be released back to the wild and they can stay happily in our care, and some of them will breed, and of course we can release them back to the wild. But educating the public on how to prevent these guys getting here in the first place is paramount for us.
Of course, caring for all these animals means there are lots of hungry mouths to feed, which is why the sanctuary also grows some of its food, mostly treats, on site. Well, things like this bottle brush here work exceptionally well as a garden plant. You know, back in a corner to hide an ugly fence line, etc. You get beautiful flowers, what, 3 to 5 metres high, about 3 metres spread. Perfect. Everyone wins.
Absolutely. And a lot of people comment on this tree because it is gorgeous when it's in full bloom. Possums, for example, will absolutely love these, but a lot of the birds will get right in and they like to lick the inside of those flowers. And look, even a lot of our smaller hopping animals would chew on these given the chance as well. But look, let's grab 3 or 4 of these and we'll see who would like a couple of snacks. That will do us, mate. So should we go and collect some more? Many things to feed, mate. I love this tree as it is because it's got all these beautiful, sort of, I don't know what they are, seed pods or something?
Seed and flower pods,
different stages of growth. To be honest, I don't know a lot about them, besides lots of animals like them.
So they're mainly after the flower heads and the seed pods?
Yeah, that's right. I reckon that'll do us there, mate.
We're good.
Excellent. Shall we head to the acacia over here?
These acacias, I mean, everything feasts on acacias.
That's right, mate. These flowers, I actually call them wally lollies. So, and most of your herbivores absolutely smash these. The excitement on a wallaby's face, but also the possums, of course, absolutely love these guys. But they also will grow galls, which you've got to look a little bit for. They've got one just behind you there.
Snap one of those.
Yeah,
they like
absolutely.
those.
Yeah, oh, that's a delicious one too.
Looks tasty, doesn't it?
It does. Go on, have a go. So, mate, these galls, like the black cockies especially, they'll chew into these, and you'll find little insects and bugs in there that they actually eat. A lot of people don't realise birds will eat bugs. We have to work a little bit harder for the treats. I mean, I know you and I are very tall, but...
Every so often a ladder does come in useful, doesn't it?
Oh, mate, it's always...
I'll spot you.
The ones up high they need. These are one of the animals' favourites, mate. Absolute favourites.
I've got this at home. The wattlebirds love it.
Absolutely, mate. Anything that really eats nectar, but, you know, these sort of nuts here as well are just great things to chew on. Again, you get little bugs and grubs inside them, but the prize, the eucalyptus chocolate, is those fellas right there. And how beautiful are they?
Oh, superb.
First on the treat run, mate. Very special boy, my man Fidget.
Oh, there he is.
To you, sir.
You're beautiful, mate.
Hey, Fidget. Hello. This is my man Fidget. He is a very, very special boy. So he came in as an orphan. Treat, my son? Yeah, thank you. So he unfortunately was very, very small at the time, so he had no fur and his eyes were still closed. But he also has had a sort of a brain bacteria, a bit like a meningitis, which rendered him unable to walk for a long time. So he's an amazing survivor and an extremely beautiful young man.
And by picking off those flowers and leaves, you're actually deadheading the plant. You're keeping the shape of the shrub down, just like possums do with the right kind of native plants. If you have them in your garden, they'll just take the tips off and you'll never have to get a pair of secateurs on them in your life.
So these are some of our forester kangaroos, which are a species of kangaroo only found in Tasmania. So look, these guys will eat a lot of grass, so we have to give them a lot of hay and about sort of 100 kilos of pellets every couple of days. But these treats that we collected earlier, they're wattles. Fabulous enrichment for them as well. So look, they'll all chew on different things, so just grab a bit and let's see how they go.
All right.
Brekkie in bed's good.
They really do like it, don't they?
Yeah, that's it. Well, this is, I mean, in the middle of the day is sort of their rest time, I guess. Hey, Buzzy. Feeling silly? Oh, I'm not sure. I don't even know what you're talking about now. Hey, let me introduce you, mate, to our black cockatoos here. That one you're feeding is Buzzard. And look, he will enjoy the treats, but to be honest, he tends to start by just throwing them around and seeing what you've got.
Obviously, something like a large-scale eucalyptus globulus or the blue gum's going to take a while to grow. So if you can get some of these smaller eucalypts into your garden, then you're going to attract a bigger bird like this.
Absolutely. And look, I mean, it's not to say you can't go and collect some of the native treats from where you can as the trees are growing.
Just as we've done today.
Yeah, and just place them inside your other native trees.
Oh, yeah, there we go. So with a little bit of planning, you can have your garden and care for your wildlife in your area too. It's something that Greg cares deeply about in everything that he does.
Do you know, I think there's something really special having native wildlife in your garden. It just makes you feel like you're a little further out. If you're in the middle of a suburban area but you've got native birds coming to feed, I think people should take joy in that because, you know, we have spread further and further into their areas, pushing them out further and further. Let's give a bit back. You know, let's put in a bit of time and effort for them and really enjoy it for them and for us.
This Easter weekend, I'm going to get stuck into my autumn fertilising. It's a great time of year for it. The conditions are mild, the soil's still warm, and there's even a chance of rain at this time of year. Now, for me, it means applying an organic, granular fertiliser to my trees and shrubs. Also feeding the lawn to bring on a flush of lovely green growth. And here in the veggie garden, I'm going to apply a liquid potash fertiliser to these late tomatoes to make sure that the flowers and fruit finish in time before it gets too cold.
So April is bang on the best month of the year to plant out garlic. So I found some varieties that I hear do really, really well in this area, and I'm going to get them in the ground.
I'll be raiding the seed cupboard for old packs of seed that are nearly out of date and mixing them through with some legumes to create a green manure crop, which once it grows up, I'll cut it down and dig it back through, and it'll improve my soil structure no end. I'll also be cutting back some of those perennial herbs, things like the rosemary behind me. But the thing I'm most excited about is raking out all my autumnal leaves on my lawn and mowing them together, because it's the perfect mix of fresh green and brown. It'll make the best compost you'll ever get.
Sophie's brood have grown so much since 2014. And this little project that they did was so much fun, and it's relevant as much today as it was back then. Making egg heads, getting your hands dirty. Go on, big kids, little kids. Great project for the weekend ahead.
Okay, guys, what we're going to do... I love gardening, and I want to make sure that my kids get the opportunity to love it too. One of the best things to do is to get them involved in fun, easy-to-do gardening activities. Today, we're going to make some newspaper pots, we're going to sow some seeds, and we're also going to make some fun egg heads. How are you going, Ryan? That's fantastic. Thanks, mate. Newspaper is a great recycled material and it makes wonderful pots. We're using this handy little wooden pot maker, and once the seeds have sprouted and germinated, all you need to do is plant the whole pot into the ground and the newspaper will break down. It actually adds extra organic matter to the soil. Now, if you haven't got one of these natty little wooden pot makers, you can simply use toilet rolls and they'll have the same effect. So we can use lots of these. Now, just fill your pot with seed raising mix, or you can even use potting mix. We've filled these about level so that by the time we add a seed and we water it, the soil level will actually settle a little bit lower. We're also going to fill these eggshells with seed raising mix and make some cute little egg heads like these ones. To do that, when you crack your eggs for breakfast, just try and take the top off only and then put a little hole in the bottom for drainage. Now, Rowan, there's a pen for you. One for each of you girls. We're drawing some faces on the eggs. Oh, that's cool. And filling them up with seed raising mix. Again, just below the top, so there's room for the water to sit and soak in. What's your favourite thing to nibble in the veggie garden?
Broad beans.
Broad beans, yum. Do you know what? We're going to grow some broad beans. We're going to sow some today in those toilet rolls. Now that we've done the fun part, it's time to plant seed. Now, as a general rule of thumb, the bigger the seed is, the deeper it needs to be planted. So, with fine seed like this cress, which we're going to put into the eggshells, it only goes up to the top, near the surface of the soil. The reason being that the seed's so small it doesn't have much stored energy and it needs to be able to germinate, produce leaves quickly so that it can start producing energy. We're going to sprinkle that on top and sort of scratch it into the soil surface. Now, with bigger seeds like these peas or these broad beans, they need to be planted deeper. As a general rule of thumb, you plant twice the depth of the seed. So we're going to put the broad beans into the toilet rolls and the peas into the paper pot. Now, they need to be down deeper so that they can absorb moisture and swell. And being down that little bit deeper will also make sure that they don't dry out.
Putting faces on eggs, there's a face, and there's one. Then putting soil and then planting seeds in there. And start shooting. And then it happens into a flower. And then we plant it.
Water them carefully so the seeds don't wash away. Once the beans and peas get proper leaves, not just the first cotyledon or seed leaves, they can be planted straight into the garden. The pots will break down as the roots grow through into the surrounding soil. Good, we need to make sure there's a bean in all of them. Put your egg heads on a sunny windowsill inside, and within a couple of days the cress will have germinated. Within about a week, you'll have a great head of hair like these ones here. You can simply cut that off with scissors, use it in salads or in cooking, and it's great to eat. But if you want to, you can make a bigger hole in the bottom of the egg and actually plant it out in the veggie garden where the cress will continue to grow. These are all great ways to get children interested in and excited about gardening. They'll be rewarded with fast results, and I'll be rewarded with some more plants for my garden.
If there's one vegetable that makes me think of Easter, it's the carrot. You know, bunnies, rabbits. Anyway, there's nothing more satisfying than growing your own juicy, gorgeous carrots in your backyard. But they do take a bit of commitment. But with a few little tips, they'll grow straight and true every time. First and foremost, carrots should always be grown from seed. Transplants are expensive, hard work, and they rarely result in success. This is blood and bone, and this is pelletized manure. Both are fertilisers, and neither should go anywhere near your carrots. Otherwise, you'll get a lot of leaf development and an odd-looking carrot. You should also dig the ground over thoroughly and deeply so the long, delicious taproot can make its way easily into the soil. Make a shallow rill with your finger and sprinkle the seed sparingly, firming the soil down to ensure it makes contact with the seed. Now for the most important thing. You must keep them moist. They're tiny seeds buried just below the surface, and they can dry out really quickly on a hot day. But here's a tip my grandfather gave me. All you need is an old plank of wood. You lay it over where you've sown your seed, and that will trap the moisture in. In a couple of days or a couple of weeks, the carrots will germinate, and then all you have to do is take off the plank. Carrots don't like a crowd, so when they get up to about 5 centimetres high, start thinning out the weaker ones, leaving the stronger ones, giving them enough room to grow. The greatest thing about growing your own carrots is you can harvest them as you need them. So don't be afraid of them. It's not that hard to get a good crop of carrots every time.
Now to another symbol of Easter, bunny rabbits. I'm not talking the feral, destructive rabbit that causes so many problems across the country. I'm talking the desexed pet bunny rabbits from the RSPCA, where I visited last year to have a look at the newly constructed landscape areas where the rabbits get to meet potential new families. Animal shelters aren't the most attractive of environments. The concrete and steel necessary to keep them clean and functional can be quite confronting. It's a situation that the RSPCA headquarters in Yagoona in Sydney's southwest is trying to change. Over 400 rescued animals live here. The RSPCA's mission is to give them a second chance. But traditional surroundings are not always conducive to adopting a furry friend. But that's where plants come in. The RSPCA are reimagining what a shelter could be and are in the early stages of creating landscape gardens that are inviting to humans and animals. Let's take a look. Brendan Neely is the Executive Manager of Animal Care Services.
We see about 12,000 animals through the door each year just at this facility. It's a busy place. Given the volume of animals that we see moving through, wear and tear is one of the biggest issues that we have. And so getting into some of the garden spaces just softens that environment for both our animal visitors and our human visitors.
The first area to be completed is this special spot for small animals, where rabbits and guinea pigs can meet potential new families.
Soft, isn't it? It's a completely different presentation because shelters can be a fairly confronting environment, and to see something like this that's colourful, soft and completely different to what they're expecting is fantastic. And if they stop and pause while they're walking through our facilities, it actually increases the adoption chances, so it actually helps animals find a home.
Steve Warner is the landscape designer who created the space.
This area is meant to be for the kids to come in and just relax. It's a safe area to bring a rabbit, to actually come in here, pop the rabbit down, sit on the ground with the rabbit and actually engage. You just have some fun. If you can have some fun, you'll start bonding with the animal.
I notice there's lots of colour and the fences are black and quite low, so you don't even feel like they're here.
No, I'm glad you said that, because what was the most important is getting the balance. We need to enclose the space, but it's really important that it didn't feel caged in.
There were some key requirements for plant choices in the project.
Plant selection was very much about maintenance, low maintenance, to the point of zero maintenance. The focus for our client is that it's the animals. So we don't want to be a problem when it comes to the landscape, we want to be the benefit. So selecting plants that are very easy to maintain is very important. So looking at natives, looking at hardy plants, looking at plants also the veterinary side of the establishment are very happy with as well.
So what are some of the plants you've selected in this area here?
The majority of our planting, you can see they're grasses. So the pennisedums here work really well for us. We also then put a border planting of the Lamandra. Again, it's very hardy, but very soft for the kids to be rolling in the space. And again, it's got to be soft in selection for the animals as well.
Good jump.
But it's much more than just a pleasant environment for pets and people. Are you seeing a change in the animals' behaviour?
We certainly do. With the rabbit enclosures, each of them has a little hop down, so the rabbits can actually leave their hutch, hop down into a veggie garden that's individually built for them, and then hop back up the bunny hops, as we call them.
Bespoke veggie gardens for the rabbits.
Absolutely, they do. It's also really interesting because we're able, particularly for the rabbits and the other pocket pets as they're referred to, seeing them do what they do, which is dig up lawns, chew things, is a great way for people to go, actually, I've really got to consider taking these on.
One of the rabbits whispered in my ear earlier that you actually don't charge for the work that you're doing with the RSPCA.
I'm committed and connected with what this organisation does. I'm a pet owner myself, and I know the good work they do. So if we can give back with our knowledge and if we can give back with our time, well, then that's worthwhile. So I'm happy to give back.
It seems it's a win-win situation. Steve's happy, the RSPCA are happy, the visitors are happy, but it's the animals that are set to benefit the most.
Yum.
To give an example of exactly what it's done, we've seen our rabbit adoptions double since the gardens came online, which is an amazing result. The ultimate thing that we're aiming at is getting these animals a second chance. And so as a result, to see a doubling of those figures simply because of the garden space here, it's paying dividends every day.
Go, Enrico. There's a few street weeds in that.
Come on, mate. Come on.
Yeah.
Bit of,
I hope you've enjoyed our Easter special. The new stories and looking back at some of the old ones. Happy Easter, Bear.
Happy Easter to you too.
What do you think of the spanakopita?
Very good. 4-star.
4-star. Yes, that's official. I'll take that as an official endorsement.
Have you put feta?
There you go, mate. Yeah, there's feta.
But it's not too salty, it's really good.
Yeah, there's feta, there's mint, there's horta. And you know the other X factor I think I put in there, lots of leek.
Leek?
Never take one of those.
Bigger knife?
It's firm.
They're laughing at my Easter bread making. Yeah, give it a taste.
It actually tastes good.
Look, whatever Easter means to you, I hope it's a happy and peaceful time to share with your family and friends. And from here with my family and friends, Kalo Pascha, happy Easter. And remember, get out and get into the garden as well. See ya.